This is our time. Natalia Supit in the studio. And now I'll tell you the main news at this hour. This morning, Russian forces once again shelled the Nikopol district of the Dnipropetrovsk region. They used artillery and FPV drones to attack Nikopol and the Marivska community. A civilian woman was injured. She is in the hospital in moderate condition. The shelling damaged two apartment buildings and a power line. Other districts of the Dnipropetrovsk region also came under Russian fire. The Russians attacked the Mazivska community with drones. Several buildings were damaged there. 2 residents of Belozersk in the Donetsk region were killed as a result of a Russian attack. The Russians struck the city late last night using FAB-250 aerial bombs. This was reported by the Donetsk Regional Prosecutor's Office. 7 people were injured, including a 16-year-old boy. As a result of the shelling, 8 apartment buildings and several cars were damaged. The occupiers also struck Belozersk yesterday during the day, hitting a 2-story residential building. People were also injured, according to the State Emergency Service of Ukraine. In total, according to the Regional Military Administration, the Russians shelled settlements in the Donetsk region 22 times in the past day. The head of the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry, Andrii Sybiha, called for increased monitoring of compliance with international humanitarian law. He initiated the creation of an international platform that will unite countries, various organizations, the expert community, and civil society. Sybiha proposes imposing preventive sanctions against violators of international law.
The international community must return to strict adherence to the norms and principles of international humanitarian law. Failure to comply with it should trigger automatic sanctions. And we must also talk about preventive measures. Violations must be punished. That is precisely why today we are initiating the creation of a platform for the progressive development of international humanitarian law. Andrii Sybiha, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, at the conference International Humanitarian Law in the context of contemporary challenges.
The defense forces neutralized 36 out of 48 drones that Russia used to attack Ukraine on Tuesday night. Russian forces also launched 4 Iskander-M ballistic missiles at Ukrainian territory, according to the Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. There were drone and missile strikes in the Sumy, Donetsk, and Chernihiv regions. The Special Operations Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine destroyed a powerful radar in temporarily occupied Crimea. This refers to the Shellings complex. This is a Soviet-Russian installation used for air traffic control. The radar has a range of up to 350 kilometers. Its destruction will significantly weaken the enemy's use of aviation, which they employ to strike civilian infrastructure and peaceful residents, the Ukrainian military command emphasized. Partisans from the Atesh movement have discovered a command post coordinating Russian airstrikes on southern Ukraine. The headquarters is located on the grounds of the former Sevastopol aviation plant. It now operates as a branch of the state company, Aviacomplect. According to Atesh, this enterprise not only repairs helicopters for the Russian Ministry of Defense. It is there that decisions are made regarding target selection and the planning of combat sorties. The existence of this center directly affects the intensity of attacks on Kherson, Mykolaiv, and also Zaporizhzhia. All information gathered by the partisans about the personnel, equipment, and activities at the site has already been passed on to Ukraine's defense forces. Ukrainian military intelligence drones attacked the Orenburg helium plant, the only facility in Russia that produces helium for missiles. This was reported by Freedom sources. Local residents spoke of a series of explosions in the area of the plant. Also, the day before, Russian authorities closed off a section of the federal highway near the settlements of Perevalitsky and Kolodnaya Klayachi, next to which the plant is located. The plant is capable of processing up to 15 billion cubic meters of natural gas per year. The helium produced there is used in rocket engineering, the space industry, and aviation. drones attacked Stavropol, Russia. On Tuesday night, explosions were heard in the city. According to local social media groups, drones struck the monocrystal and Neptune plants. The first plant produces sapphire ingots, wafers, and glass for optoelectronics. Its products are used by the Russian military-industrial complex. The second facility, Neptune, manufactures control systems for marine vessels, including military ones. Russian social media groups also report a drone attack on a military unit in Stavropol. The Saratov oil refinery, owned by Rosneft, suspended operations after a drone attack that took place on August 10. This was reported by Bloomberg. According to the publication, this is already the third Russian oil refinery hit by drone strikes this month. It is also known that the Saratov oil refinery is located in the city of Pavlzhai. Its design capacity is about 140,000 barrels of oil per day. A prolonged shutdown of this facility could affect gasoline supplies on the domestic Russian market, especially amid the seasonal increase in fuel demand. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky thanked European leaders for supporting Ukraine's independence and territorial integrity, as well as for their proactive approach to diplomacy, which should ensure a lasting and reliable peace.
Indeed, we all support President Trump's determination and must work together to form positions that will prevent Russia from deceiving the world once again. We see that the Russian army is not preparing to end the war. On the contrary, they are carrying out movements that indicate preparations for new offensive operations. In such circumstances, it is important that nothing threatens the unity of the world. Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Let me remind you, on the eve, European leaders called on Trump to defend Ukraine's interests during negotiations with Putin. A joint statement was made by the presidents of France and Finland, the heads of government of Italy, Germany, Poland, the United Kingdom, and the president of the European Commission. They emphasized that a diplomatic resolution should take place exclusively on terms that guarantee the protection of the key security interests of Ukraine and Europe.
Substantive negotiations are only possible if there is a ceasefire or a reduction in military actions. The issue of peace in Ukraine cannot be decided without Ukraine's own participation. We remain committed to the principle that international borders must not be changed by force. The current front line should serve as the starting point for negotiations. From the joint statement of European leaders on the European Commission's website.
A show of strength and a clear signal to Putin. Poland is gathering thousands of troops for a parade. It will take place on August 15th, the day of the meeting between the leaders of the U.S. and Russia in Alaska, announced Poland's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Defense, the Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz. According to him, this march will be the largest in the country's history. About 4,000 military personnel, 300 pieces of equipment, 50 aircraft, and 20 ships will take part, as well as allies from other countries. It is worth noting that on August 15th, Poland celebrates Armed Forces Day, dedicated to the victory in the Battle of Warsaw in 1920.
This day is not only a tribute to historical memory, but also a guide for the future. After all, the threat always comes from the same direction. Whether it was the Empire, the Soviet Union, or now the Russian Federation, the methods are always the same. That's why it's all the more important to show our strength. The Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of National Defense of Poland.
Another 90 days of delay. China has postponed the introduction of a 24% tariff on American goods. The corresponding decision was made by the government of the PRC. At the same time, the remaining 10% tariff will continue to be collected, as noted in the statement. The day before, U.S. President Donald Trump also postponed tariffs on Chinese goods.
I have signed an order extending the suspension of tariffs on China for another 90 days. All other provisions of the agreement will remain unchanged. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald Trump, President of the United States, on the social network Truth Social.
The first high-level meeting. U.S. President Donald Trump and South Korean leader Lee Jae-myung will hold talks in Washington. They are scheduled for August 25th. According to the South Korean president's press service, the leaders will discuss security issues and economic cooperation.
Based on the recently reached tariff agreement, the leaders are expected to discuss measures to further strengthen bilateral economic cooperation, including in manufacturing sectors such as semiconductors, batteries, and shipbuilding, as well as partnerships in economic security, advanced technologies, and critical minerals.
In addition, the U.S. and South Korea will hold joint military exercises next week. Meanwhile, neighboring North Korea has already expressed concern about this and conducted demonstrative mortar firings of various calibers, as reported by local media. Pyongyang stated that the shooting competitions are aimed at improving the Army's war-fighting capabilities and combat readiness, and also accused Washington and Seoul of preparing to invade North Korea.